إن الحمد لله تعالى نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله تبارك وتعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى، وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. نسأل الله العزيز الغفار يجيرنا وإياكم من عذاب النار. أما بعد، فإن لله عز وجل الحكمة البالغة في جميع شؤونه وجميع أموره سبحانه وتعالى، واقتضت حكمته سبحانه وتعالى أن يجعل مع كل محنة منحة، ومع كل منحة محنة. وانظروا إلى الكلام، هذه الكلمات منحة ومحنة إلى قرب الكلمات سبحان الله، والتغيير الطفيف بين الكلمتين، والفرق بينهما شاسع، ولكنهما يعني قرينتين. دائما تقترن المنحة بالمحنة، والمحنة بالمنحة. فالله عز وجل جعل الفقر مثلا محنة، ولكن تأتي معه منح كثيرة، وجعل الغنى منحة، ولكن تأتي معه محن كثيرة. وكذلك الموت، فالموت محنة، ولكن يحمل في طياته منحا كثيرة. Allah Azza wa Jal made it so with His wisdom subhanahu wa ta'ala that all things that come as a bounty, they have hardship within them, and vice versa. All hardship has bounty with it. That's why I use those two words, mihna and minha. They have the same letters, they just change one letter, and subhanAllah it changed from calamity, from hardship, into a bounty, or vice versa, subhanAllah. So, for example, poverty is a mihna, is a calamity for most people, but with it comes bounties, one of which, subhanAllah, a person is, if he's thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the Prophet ﷺ, that the people that were afflicted with poverty in the life of this world, and they were patient, they will enter Jannah about 500 years before the others. This is in of itself is a tremendous minha, bounty from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Similarly, the wealth could be a bounty from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is a minha, but with it comes a lot of calamities, as we know. Wealth with no knowledge, as we mentioned in a previous lecture, can lead a person to transgression, can lead a person to oppression, can lead a person to doing things because he is able to, because he can, to doing things that displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that makes his wealth what? A mihna, a calamity, not a bounty anymore. And similarly, the phenomenon of death, of losing a loved one, it is a calamity, a mihna, but with it comes bounties. And one of the biggest bounties من أكبر المنح في الموت هو التذكر والتفكر. One of the biggest bounties when it comes to death, or the death of a loved one, is for a person to be reminded, subhanAllah. The Prophet ﷺ قال صلى الله عليه وسلم في حديث أبي هريرة: أكثروا ذكر هذه اللذات. أكثروا ذكر هذه اللذات. صلى الله عليه وسلم. Always, constantly mention the destroyer of pleasure. Look how we call it. The destroyer of pleasure. A person is in the life of this world, is living and enjoying himself, enjoying all the bounties and the pleasures, and then subhanAllah, death comes all of a sudden and takes him away from all of that, subhanAllah. It destroys all of that for him. And it destroys all of that for his family as well. That's why it is the destroyer of pleasures. The Prophet ﷺ told us to constantly remember the destroyer of pleasures, because subhanAllah, of the following hadith, another hadith of Ibn Umar رضي الله عنه, قال صلى الله عليه وسلم: أكثروا ذكر هذه اللذات، ويعني الموت، هذا كلام ابن عمر، يعني الموت، فإنه ما كان في كثير إلا قلله، فإنه ما كان في كثير إلا قلله، ولا قليل إلا جزله أو جزله، أو يعني أكثر، فما ذكر أو كان في قليل إلا كثر. سبحان الله. انظروا لهذه سبحان الله. فالموت, he said, constantly remember the destroyer of pleasure, for verily, whenever it is in a situation of plenty, it makes it look small and meager, like it's nothing. And vice versa, when it is in a situation of when things are scarce, it makes it look like a lot, subhanAllah. And this is on many levels. If death is mentioned in a situation of plenty, a person that has everything, then death comes to him. Does he have anything anymore? Does he? He has nothing. It's all gone. But subhanAllah, when death comes and to a person, and you see death in front of you, and you have just a little bit, then all of a sudden you are thankful for that which you have, because it looks like a lot. Because that person in front of you that just passed away, guess what? All of a sudden he has nothing. Subhanallah. فما ذكر في قليل إلا كثره، وما ذكر في كثير إلا قلله، وما ذكر في قليل إلا جزله أو جزله أي كثره. سبحان الله. والموت، ذكر الموت، سبحان الله، كما يقول العلماء، يعني يعرفك بحقيقة أساسية، بحقيقة هذه الدنيا. He reminds you, to mention death, to constantly mention the phenomenon of death, it reminds you of the reality of the life of this world. You really see it for what it is. You see it for what it is. إن العبرة بماذا؟ بالخواتيم. You really, the most important part of any kind of situation is what? Is the outcome, the end of it. You look at the end of a person, you see, subhanAllah, it really gives you a good picture and a good idea what the life of this world means and what it is. It's nothing. Because the things that you take with you in reality, nobody sees them. They're not tangible. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees them. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has accounted for those things. And those are your deeds. Subhanallah. يا من بدنياه اشتغل وغره طول الأمل، الموت يأتي بغتة والقبر صندوق العمل. Subhanallah. Oh, the one that has been so busy with the life of this world, and طول الأمل, the fact that you think that the lifespan and the long run hopes, they keep you, they betray you. Subhanallah. غَرَّهُ طُولُ الْأَمَلِ الْمَوْتُ يَأْتِي بَغْتَةً, that death comes all of a sudden. وَالْقَبْرُ صُنْدُوقُ الْعَمَلِ, and the grave is the box or the carrier of what? Of your deeds. Subhanallah. So obviously the important thing is to focus on the deeds, especially that the Prophet ﷺ said, when a person dies, 3 things go with him to the grave. 3 things. What are they? His family, his wealth, and his deeds. The Prophet ﷺ goes on to say that 2 of them abandon him and they go back, and only 1 stays with him. So make sure that that one that's going to stay with you is good. Because if it's not, a person will be full of regret. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned that when a person is from the righteous people, من الصالحين. ونسأل الله تعالى جعلنا وإياكم من الصالحين, from the righteous people. When he dies, and after the su'al, he succeeds in the su'al, in the questioning of the malaika, that a person comes to him in his grave, beautiful looking, nice smelling, subhanAllah, has a beautiful speech. Ya Allah says, who are you? Man anta? ووجهك هذا لا يأتي إلا بخير. Man anta? Who are you? And your face, your beautiful face only brings glad tidings. What does he say? أنا على عملك الصالح. I am your good deeds. And he keeps you company until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders the resurrection to start. إلى يوم يبعثون. Similarly, on the flip side, a person that his deeds were not good, what happens? A person that is horrible looking, horrible smelling, all of a sudden appears to him in his grave. Who are you, Ya Allah? وجهك القبيح الذي يأتي إلا بالشر. Your face only brings bad news. Who are you? He says, I'm your bad deeds. I'm your bad deeds. And that person keeps him company until the day of reckoning. Only sees what displeases him, only he hears from what displeases him, and only smells what displeases him from this person. SubhanAllah. And he can't go anywhere. He's stuck there with this person because this is his deeds. وَالْقَبْرُ صُنْدُوقُ الْعَمَلِ. SubhanAllah. Allah Azza wa Jal subhanahu ذكر في محكم كتابه كلاما عن الموت، ويقول أهل العلم إن عجيب أن الأصل أن تقدم الحياة عن الموت، لأن الحياة تكون قبل الموت. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said the ayat that he talked about death are amazing according to the scholars. Normally you're supposed to talk about life first, then you talk about death. Allah Azza wa Jalla قال تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور. Ya Allah, all praise is to the one, yes, subhanAllah, the one that holds in his hand what? The dominion, الملك. قل اللهم مالك الملك تؤتي الملك من تشاء وتنزع الملك ممن تشاء وتعز من تشاء وتذل من تشاء بيدك الخير إنك على كل شيء قدير. Say, oh Allah, the one that holds in his hand al-mulk, the dominion. You give dominion, you give kingdom and dominion to whoever you will, and you take it away from whoever you will, and you honor whoever you will, and you dishonor or humiliate whoever you will, and all of goodness is in your hand, subhanAllah, and you are capable of everything. So, بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير. He's the one that's capable of everything. الذي خلق, the one that created death and he created life. Death first, then life. So why is that? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reverse this order, the order of life and death, made it into death and life? To tell you and I something very important. This is the reality. This is the reality that most people are too oblivious to talk about. This is the reality that people run away from. This is the reality that people think that's not there. You know, subhanAllah, theory that some people have, if you don't see it, then maybe it's not there. But we don't see it, but we know it's there, and we know it's coming. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in His book, subhanahu wa ta'ala, that death is a reality, and we have to get ourselves ready for it. And how do we get ready for it? How do we get ready for it? SubhanAllah. It's all there in the manual, in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of it in the book of Allah and the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All we have to do is read, understand, and implement. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not make it difficult for us. He told us the reality of things. He told us the reason for our creation. He sent prophets and messengers. He sent scriptures. All we have to do is follow, subhanAllah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not, كما قال صاحب رحمه الله صاحب كتاب التوحيد, قال لم يتركنا خلقنا ورزقنا ولم يتركنا هملا. Allah Azza wa Jalla ما تركنا هملا, did not let us fend for ourselves, find the realities for ourselves, but rather He subhanahu wa ta'ala told us the reason for our creation. What is the reason for our creation? What is the reason for our creation? Is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's it. The reason for which you and I were created is what? Is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, without taking any partners with Him. All the other stuff that were made so appealing to us, all of those things are accessory to that. زين للناس حب الشهوات من النساء والبنين والقناطير المقنطرة من الذهب والفضة والخيل المسومة والأنعام والحرث ذلك متاع الدنيا فمتاع الدنيا قد زين لبني آدم, قد زين لهم. فسبحان الله, الأصل أن ينتبه بنو آدم إلى ما هو أهم وما هو أفضل, سبحان الله, وهو تقوى الله عز وجل. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that the shahawat, the pleasures of this life, and the women, and the wealth, subhanAllah, the tons of when it comes to gold and silver and all of that, He was made appealing to the sons of Adam. SubhanAllah, it is part of our nature, but SubhanAllah, when it comes to that, we have to go against our nature and SubhanAllah, go push ourselves, our nafs, into the straight path and keeping it within the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Azza wa Jal, Surah Al-Jumu'ah, subhanallah, Allah Azza wa Jal قال يعني شيء عجيب, والقرآن كله عجيب. قال قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه ماذا؟ فإنه يلحقكم. هل هو يطالبكم؟ لا, قال إنه ملاقيكم. ماذا يعني هذا؟ Allah Ta'ala said, say that death that you were trying to escape from, that you're running away from, فإنه ملاقيكم. ملاقيكم, if you really explain it, it means it's meeting you. But what it really means, it's not running after you, it's not trying to catch up with you. No, it is ahead of you and it's going to cut you off. ملاقيكم, it is faster than you and it's going to cut you off. And we know the story of Jalis Sulaiman alayhi salam, that person that used to sit with Sulaiman, Prophet of Allah Sulaiman alayhi salam. Then subhanAllah, they were sitting, and then this man and the malaika used to come to the prophets and messengers in the likeness of people, like Dihya al-Kalbi radiallahu anhu. Jibreel used to come in the likeness of Dihya al-Kalbi because he was a beautiful, he was a good looking man. So Jibreel alayhi salam, a lot of times he will come in his likeness, because if the malaika would come to the sons of Adam in their natural likeness, most of them will pass out. They will not be able to handle looking at the malaika, their size and everything. So they used to come to the prophets and messengers in the likeness of people, subhanAllah. So Malak al-Maut came in the likeness of a person, and he was staring at the Jalis, the man that was sitting with Sulaiman alayhi salam. So the person, when he saw him, he got scared. He said, "Who is that, Ya Nabi Allah? Who is this person?" He said, "This is not a person, actually, this is Malak al-Maut." He said, "Did you see the way that he's looking at me?" He said, "Yes, I did. Can you ask the wind to carry me somewhere else? Carry me to India." SubhanAllah. So the Prophet of Allah Sallallahu did so and asked the Rih, and Allah Azza wa Jalla gave him the control over the wind. It take him anywhere that he wants. As Allah Ta'ala said in Surah Sad, Rufa'an haythu asad. Wherever he wants to go, the Rih will take him, the wind will take him. So he asked the wind, and ordered the wind to take him to India, and then right there, when he got there, who does he find waiting for him? Malak al-Maut, subhanAllah. And that's why when he came back to speak to Sulaiman alayhi salam, Malak al-Maut, the angel of death, he says, Sulaiman alayhi salam asked him, "Why were you staring at that person?" He said, "Because I was surprised. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked me to take his soul in India, and he's right here in Jerusalem sitting with you. That's why I was puzzled by that. That's why I was staring at him." قُلْ إِنَّ الْمَوْتَ الَّذِي تَفِرُّونَ مِنْهُ فَإِنَّهُ مُلَاقِيكُمْ. The death that you're trying to escape, that you're trying to run away from, it will meet you, subhanAllah, wherever you are. And subhanAllah, كما قال الله عز وجل أينما تكونوا يدرككم الموت ولو كنتم في بروج مشيدة. Doesn't matter what you do to protect yourself from it, it is coming for you. Might as well get ready for it. It's a lot simpler. It's a lot more simple to get yourself ready for it. Whenever it comes, subhanAllah, you're in good terms with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if the best soul ever created, the best soul that ever existed, the best soul that ever, of a man that ever walked the earth, the soul of Muhammad ﷺ was taken, then what about us? Who are we? إِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ وَإِنَّهُمْ مَيِّتُونَ. Verily you are dying, Allah Ta'ala told Muhammad ﷺ, and they are dying, so may all of you are, subhanAllah. وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ أَفَإِنْ مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انقلبتم على أعقابكم. Verily Muhammad is only merely a messenger, and before him there were many messengers. If he dies or he's killed, because Allah has given that as a possibility, he might die or he might get killed, as many prophets and messengers got killed before him. انقلبتم, that you will turn upside down, you lose your deen, you lose your religion. So, subhanAllah, if Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and by the way, the death of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the biggest calamity that befell this ummah. There is nothing worse. There is nothing worse than losing Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But subhanAllah, the second worst thing for any human being is losing a parent, subhanAllah. Allah Azza wa Jalla made the position of a parent, especially the father, very, very special. That's why the ulama, the scholars will tell you that half of the bid'ah and half of the shirk and half of the kufr that you'll find on the earth is because of what? Sunnatul aba. هذا ما وجدنا عليه آباءنا. This is what we found our parents doing. Subhanallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I mentioned this before in one of the lectures, Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned in talking about the manasik of Hajj. And by the way, manasik of Hajj is a time and an opportunity, if done right, a person comes out of it as if he was just born. All of his sins will be expiated. So this is something tremendous. So Allah Ta'ala says in talking about manasik al-Hajj in Surah Al-Baqarah, فَإِذَا قَضَيْتُم مَنَاسِكَكُمْ فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ كَذِكْرِكُمْ آبَاءَكُمْ أَوْ أَشَدَّ ذِكْرًا. If you finish your rituals, your rites R-I-T-E-S, rituals of Al-Hajj, then mention Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do the dhikr of Allah as you would mention your own fathers or forefathers, or even more than that. So subhanAllah, Allah Azza wa Jalla lets us know that the position of the fathers is pretty high. The position of the father in the psyche of his son and his daughter is really important. That's why it is the second biggest calamity for a person, for a Muslim, after losing the Prophet ﷺ, who is the father of all this ummah, is losing a person's father. So therefore, subhanAllah, this reminds us of very, very important things. That if you have lost your father, as it is the case of our young brothers here, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have rahmah and maghfirah on their father, inshallah ta'ala, is for them to honor him by being the best servants of Allah ta'ala they can be. And I mentioned this by the grave. إِذَا مَاتَ ابْنُ آدَمَ, if the son of Adam dies, انقطع عمله, his deeds come to a complete stop. So إِلَّا مِنْ ثَلَاثٍ, except for three things. Now imagine this, a person is dead in his grave, and there is still a possibility for his record of hasanat to still be filled, to continue to be filled. Look at the karam of Allah, the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِلَّا مِنْ ثَلَاثٍ, صَدَقَةٌ جَارِيَةٌ, ongoing charity. And subhanAllah, incidentally, a person lost his father and he wants to honor his father, he can do an ongoing charity. He can, whatever he can do to honor his father, like for example, building a masjid somewhere, in a small town somewhere. All those things are possibilities وعلم ينتفع به, and knowledge that people can benefit from. وولد صالح يدعو له, a righteous son that makes supplication for him. But for that to happen, then a person has to be righteous first. Subhanallah. يجب أن يكون صالحا. He has to be righteous before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept his supplication when it comes to his father. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal mentioned the dutifulness, dutifulness to the parents in many places in the Quran. And the amazing thing that he mentioned here right after what? The most important thing of all, the reason for our creation, which is what? التوحيد. وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Look at this honor. انظروا إلى التشريف الذي شرف الله عز وجل به الآباء. As the honor, Allah Ta'ala honored the parents, He made their dutifulness the second thing after the tawheed. You have to be someone that believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without taking any partners with Him, and then you have to be good to your parents. You have to be good to your parents, subhanAllah. وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. subhanAllah. جزئية مهمة هنا. يجب على الآباء أن يعينوا أبنائهم على البر, وهذه إشكالية. There are a lot of parents that don't help their children be from al-barara. They don't help them in making them dutiful to them. How do you help your kids become min al-barara, dutiful to you? Well, first of all, it comes from childhood. They have to learn that, the meaning of dutifulness to the parents. They have to learn first of all, and first and foremost, the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be dutiful to Allah ta'ala, the one that created them, the one that sustains them. Because you, as a father, you're only a means for the bounty of Allah ta'ala to get to them. If it wasn't for Allah, would they be able to eat? Would they be able to grow? Would they be healthy? Of course not. And you have nothing to do with that. It's all Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to first teach them to be dutiful to you. And Allah Ta'ala keeps mentioning the dutifulness to the parents, and He never mentioned dutifulness of the parents to the children. Why? Because it is natural. It is part of the fitrah. So every time we see that a person is not doing what he's supposed to do when it comes to his children, what does that mean? He's away from the fitrah. Something is wrong with that person. That's why Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, like I said, never mentioned when it comes to the father being dutiful to his son. The Prophet ﷺ جاء في الأثر رحم الله ولدا أعان ولده على ماذا؟ على بره. سبحان الله. وجاء كذلك من أكل من مال ابنه فليأكل بالمعروف. من أكل من مال ابنه فليأكل بالمعروف. A person came to Umar, جاء رجل إلى عمر رضي الله عنه وقال له إن ابني يعقني. He said that my son is undutiful to me. He does not take care of me. He does not treat me well. إن ابني يعقني. فجيء الولد إلى عمر رضي الله عنه. Umar asked for the son to be brought forth. وأنبه على عقوقه أبيه, and he reprimanded him for being undutiful to his father. So the son said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, what is the duty of a father towards his son? Obviously, every time you have huquq, you have wajibat. Every time you have rights, you have responsibilities. It's the way it is. Rights come with responsibilities. So what is the responsibility of a father towards his son? Umar رضي الله عنه قال أن ينتقي له أمه ويحسن اسمه ويعلمه الكتاب. That he should first of all choose his mother, the mother of his children, very, very carefully. Then choose for him a good name, and then teach him the book of Allah. And by the way, Umar radiallahu anhu said just a few things, because there's more to it, but he mentioned some really crucial and important things. فقال الولد يا أمير المؤمنين إن أبي لم يفعل شيئا من ذلك. لم يفعل شيئا. Said, يا أمير المؤمنين, my father did nothing of this. He didn't do anything of this. أما أمي فإنها زنجية كانت لمجوس. My mother used to be is a slave from Africa or Abyssinia, and she belonged to a people that were fire worshippers, مجوس. وقد سماني جعلا. ما هو الجعل؟ من يقول لي ما هو الجعل؟ ما هو الجعل يا أخوة؟ إما الجعل أو الجعلان يذكر. الجعل هو الخنفساء، خنافس، سبحان الله. الجعل، إن هناك حديث ذكره النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن التعصب القبلي، والتعصب يعني للناس بافتخارهم بأجدادهم وآبائهم. فقال صلى الله عليه وسلم لا ينتهين قوم عن ذكر قوم صاروا فحما، يعني قوم قد أحرقوا في النار، أو لا يكونن أهون عند الله من الجعلان يدحرج النتن بأنفه. سبحان الله. تعرف الخنفساء هذه تبحث عن يعني أكرمكم الله عن هذه يعني بعض الحيوانات وتستعمله، يعني تأكله منه كذا. The Prophet ﷺ, talking about this, used this word, ju'l or ju'lan, he said that these people should stop being so proud of their fathers and forefathers and talking about their, because in the Arabs, in the time of Jahiliyyah and even after, people were so proud of their fathers and their tribes and all of that. And this is from Jahiliyyah, because we're all the same as Muslims. So the Prophet ﷺ said these people better stop praising a people that were already burning in Jahannam, or they will be in the eyes of Allah worse than al-Ju'l. By the way, I can't think of the name of that creature. What is that creature? It's an insect about this size, and usually it's black, and it starts rolling animal droppings. What is it called? No, in English. In al-Ju'lan. Beetle, right? Yeah. It's a form, kind of a beetle, not the flying one. It's a form of, I think there's another name for it, a more specific name. That's what I'm looking for. So subhanallah, this person, he named his son what? The name of that insect. Subhanallah. سماني جعلا ولم يعلمني من الكتاب حرفا. ولم يعلمني, he did not teach me anything from the book of Allah Ta'ala. So, the rule here is, you want your children to be barra, dutiful to you, what do you have to do? You have to start with al-birr. You have to start yourself. Umar radiallahu anhu قال له جئت تشكو عقوق ابنك وقد عققته قبل أن يعقك. يا الله. وأسأت إليه قبل أن يسيء إليك. You came to me to complain about the undutifulness of your son. You were undutiful to him before he was, and you harmed him before he harmed you, subhanAllah. So this is something that we have to pay attention. But when these conditions are there, then subhanAllah, all of us, our parents, we are also sons of someone, and we have to be dutiful to that person. We have to be min al-barra. And this is extremely, extremely important, ya ikhwan. And subhanAllah, this is a lesson for especially the young people here. If your father and your mother are still there, then subhanAllah, kiss their hands and kiss their feet day and night and obey them and be good to them. Because ask the ones that have lost. I lost my father 12 years ago, subhanAllah. And there's not one day that I don't think about him. Especially that now he happens to have 10 grandchildren. 10 grandchildren between my children and my brother and sister's children. And he hasn't seen any one of them. SubhanAllah. And that is one of the things that are difficult for a person. So if you still have your parents, if you have your parents still, take care of them. Be good to them. Kalima tayyiba, always talk to them in the best of speech. Subhanallah, Allah Azza wa Jal said in Surah Al-Isra, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ. Subhanallah, توحيد أولا. وبالوالدين إحسانا إما يبلغن عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا كريما. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, well, your Lord has decreed that you should worship none but Him and you should be dutiful to your parents. If one of them or the two of them reach old age with you, then subhanallah, do not tell them uff. What is uff يا إخوة؟ ما معنى uff؟ ما معنى كلمة uff في اللغة العربية؟ ما معناها؟ Yes. Yeah, anything that makes you feel upset. أبو أحمد؟ تأسف عليه، نعم. ولكن لها أصل في لغة العرب. يقولون الأف والتف. والأف ما يخرج من الأذنين، يعني الوسخ. والتف ما يكون بين الأظافر. هذا الوسخ الذي يكون بين الأظافر. هذا الأف والتف عند العرب. وطبعا أف جاءت من هذا كما قلت التأفف، حين يعني العربي يريد أن يعلم إنسانا أنه تعب منه وسلم منه فيقول له أف لك. سبحان الله، أف لهم وما يعبدون كما ذكر الله عز وجل في محكم كتابه. So أف, it comes from أف and تف, and these are the things, the dirt that comes from the ears or from between the nails in the language of the Arabs. And subhanAllah, it's a way of showing exasperation, that you are tired of someone, subhanAllah. And this is the one thing that a person cannot afford to do with his parents. Doesn't matter what the situation is, always be humble and be obedient. وَخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. The wing of humility. This is what you should have with them always. Always be humble. Even if they're wrong. I don't want to make it too long for everyone. I'll close with this. This person, subhanAllah, he came in a person that had his mother with him. She was pretty old. He was taking care of her. He was doing everything. Clothing her, bathing her, taking care of her. She can't do anything for herself. From A to Z, taking care of her. She died after a while, and then when he died, he came to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he found that Allah ta'ala was angry with him. كان الله عز وجل قد غضب عليه. فقال يا رب, he said, my Lord, my mother was with me, and I was dutiful to her, and I took care of her, and subhanallah, yarhamukallah. Why are you angry with me? فقال سبحانه وتعالى كانت ترعاك في السر وهي تتمنى لك البقاء وكنت ترعاها في الكبر وأنت تتمنى لها الفناء. يا Allah. He said that she used to take care of you when you were a child, and it was difficult for her, but she was asking Allah Ta'ala to keep you alive, and you were taking care of her. But subhanAllah, in the back of your mind, you're asking to get rid of this heavy charge that you have on your back, this heavy, subhanAllah, burden that you have on your back. Even if he didn't say it, but he thought it. You stay longing for the day that he doesn't have to do those chores anymore. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was angry with him. So when it comes to our parents, it is what's in your heart, what's in your mind, and your deeds. لأن محل نظر الرب تعالى أين؟ القلب. الله عز وجل ينظر إلى قلبك يحول بين المرء وقلبه. Allah Ta'ala looks at your heart and He sees what's in it. So make sure that when you're dealing with your parents, it starts here. That subhanAllah, your heart is clean towards them. Your heart has nothing but love and affection for them. Your heart has nothing but dutiful for them, subhanAllah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give rahmah and maghfirah to Abu Amir, our deceased We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make him from the people of Al-Jannah and to make his children from the righteous and to accept all the supplication of everyone that made supplication for him. سبحانه وتعالى إنه ولي ذلك والقادر عليه. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والحمد لله رب العالمين وجزاكم الله خيرا.